Our and we are live. Welcome, guys, to my live launch coverage of SpaceX Starlink mission. Uh, this is I think the 10th mission for the Starlink payload, and this particular mission going to be a very excited one because in this mission SpaceX first time fly a booster for the sixth time. So yes, the booster is flown previously 5 mission. Telstar, something says Telstar 18 vantage or 19 vantage, and one more mission and 3 mission for the Starlink. So this is going. If they land, that booster is going to be exciting one. On this mission, we have also one more payload. Is and the payload is the Planet Lab SkySat satellite. So there will be 3 SkySat satellite on board this particular mission, and I don't know why they are still not started their task. So inside the payload fairing there is the 58 Starlink satellite, uh, which is the low legacy internet service providing satellite, and uh, so Elon planned to cover the whole world and provide the low legacy internet services with a low cost, so that they can reach the internet. Internet will be provided to each and everyone who does not have get service right now. Uh, yeah, and the second, talking about the secondary payload, there will be SkySat satellite, which is the Earth imaging satellite, which can capable to capture the sub-meter resolution imagery, which is the cool thing. I think this is a very small satellite, like mini refrigerator, and can able to image the Earth in a sub-meter resolution, which is the very cool thing as per macro. So let's see SpaceX have any update or not. So we are still waiting for the official launch coverage of the SpaceX. Uh, SpaceX is cool. I think they are reflying the boosters. Uh, when they first flew this booster for this second time, first time, the com- the comic become the reality. In comic, we see the booster rocket will come back and land with with propulsion, but the in reality it's never happened. But SpaceX did that. They landed their booster back to ground for the first time in somewhere around 2015 or 2016, and yeah, they are the cool one because they are landing the booster on drone ship as well as on ground as per the mission requirement. Today, first stage will land on drone ship, which is located somewhere around 634 kilometers away from the coast. The main job of the barge is autonomous space drone ship is to catch the Falcon 9 or Falcon 9 land on it, and there will mischief and mystery is already on the at the landing zone where the fairing will be covered.
This is the 100th flight of the 100th flight of the Falcon 9 SpaceX rocket. SpaceX first launch of their Falcon 9 rocket is carried in 2009. So it's very small time. They are there.
Yeah, this is the 100th flight if we consider the Amos 6 blast. If you consider that, then it will be the 100th flight of this Falcon family, and the overall 100 and somewhere around 91 flight of the Falcon 9 booster. So yeah, we are still
waiting for the
we are still waiting for the official live coverage of this from the SpaceX side. So launch is currently targeted at 10:31 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So I'm living in India, so we are totally different side of part of the earth. So there is a little bit confusion of the timing always up there. So I need to check the time usually. So this year India not launched any vehicle yet, but they are planning to launch their mission end of this month or the next month or so, which is the PSLV definitely. Let's see what the India will do in this year, because of the COVID pandemic they cannot able to launch anything, but ISRO will utilize their facility to create sanitizer, so which will be utilized to sanitize the big buildings and everything. So yeah, they are utilizing their facility for that purpose, so they cannot able to launch any mission yet on this year, which is cool thing I would say.
You say about this year's 3 Mars missions and next Mars period.
Yeah, this month is going to is the Mars month, I think. We have a first Mars mission which launched on H2A launch vehicle, which was the UAE's Mars Hope mission, which is delegated to study the environment of the Mars, and and if successful, then the UAE become the first Arab country to reach to the Mars. The second mission, which will lift off, is the Long March 5 with the Taiwan one or Taiwan, whatever their Mars mission. This mission is very cool because it's carrying a lander, rover, and the orbiter. They will reach into the orbit around the Mars and then start the orbiting and take some high resolution imagery of the landing site, and 3 months later they will deploy the lander, and then lander will use parachute and propulsion to land on Mars and deploy a rover on it. So it's a cool mission, I think. And the third mission which was launched is the Perseverance rover with the Ingenuity helicopter. So Perseverance rover is very cool because it's carrying this time the mic, so we can able to hear the sound of the landing and the Martian winds and everything. So it's going to be a cool mission. There is the one payload Maxi or something like that, which is the coolest payload I ever seen because it's first time any payload will go into the Mars and try to convert the carbon dioxide into the oxygen. if they are successful, then they will. If they are successful, then I think it will help us to send human to the Mars. Okay, they are live because human does not need to carry any oxygen with them to survive on Mars. Your life by the SpaceX site. Okay, we have. So yeah, I'm talking about max payload. Payload will try to convert the carbon dioxide of the Mars into the oxygen so that we can breathe. So if they are successful, then when the human land on Mars, they does not need to carry any oxygen on for this surface operation, because they can able to convert the carbon dioxide of the Mars into the oxygen themselves with a big very big maxi payload, and they do not worry about anything like that. So yeah, this is a cool thing. One more thing is that the Perseverance rover will take the sample and store inside the protective or sealed tube, so that in future some robotic mission will take the sample and come back to Earth with those samples, so that we can analyze those sample, and the timeline is set for the 2026 liftoff and 2030 return. This is a joint mission planned by the ESA and NASA. However, the fund is not released, so we cannot say anything about that. But yeah, this month is going to be a crazy month with the Mars. Also, I heard that the Electron launch failure investigation team concluded their investigation and find some battery issue with the second stage, and they will improve that so that they can able to launch more payload into the orbit. The Electron is very cool, tiny rocket. So yeah.
You say about the ExoMars.
And yeah, one more mission planned to launch this year toward the Mars is the ExoMars 2020 rover, but they had faced some failure with the parachute system, which is extremely bad if this end the mission. So they postponed the mission and now targeting 2022. So this 2 years give the team to design new and very standable parachute, so that they can utilize it to land on Mars. Because when you enter into the Mars surface, you are on a very high speed, so you need a stronger parachute compared to the another parachute. So when they tested the okay, yeah, man.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, August 18th, and you're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 as it awaits its 10:31 a.m. Eastern Time launch from pad Slick 40 at our Cape Canaveral launch site in Florida. Hello from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. My name is Kate Tice, and I'm a senior certification engineer here at SpaceX. You're watching a live webcast for our 11th Starlink mission. This morning's launch represents a couple of milestones: our 14th mission of 2020, our 90th Falcon 9 mission, and the first time for reusing a booster for the 6th time. To date, we've launched nearly 600 Starlink satellites to orbit. As a reminder, Starlink is a constellation of satellites that can provide high-speed, low-latency internet all over the globe, particularly in remote or rural areas where connectivity is limited or completely unavailable. We have 3 SmallSat passengers on board today's mission for our customer Planet, the operators of the largest constellation of Earth observation satellites. You may remember we also successfully launched 3 SkySats for Planet on a Starlink mission in June earlier this year. The satellites on today's mission will enable high-resolution imaging of a single location up to 12 times a day. They'll be joining 18 SkySats already in orbit, completing Planet's fleet of 21 satellites, making it the largest high-resolution fleet of satellites in orbit to date. Now, in order to make room for those 3 rideshare passengers, we will be launching 58 Starlink satellites today into low Earth orbit instead of the usual 60, as we have done in the past. Planet's SkySats will deploy in 3 sequential maneuvers beginning at about 12.5 minutes after liftoff, and the Starlink satellites will deploy at 46 minutes after liftoff. So at this point, we're at just under 8.5 minutes until liftoff, and right now all systems are go for an on-time liftoff this morning.
So you can see the suits on our first stage, which is faced by the...
There on your screen is Falcon 9, our 2-stage liquid-fueled launch vehicle, getting ready for launch from Space Launch Complex 40, or SLIC 40, in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Falcon 9 stands 70 meters tall, which is just greater than the wingspan of a 747 aircraft. Today's flight will be the 6th flight for this booster. It previously supported the Telstar 18 Vantage mission, Iridium 8, the first Starlink mission, as well as the 3rd and 8th Starlink missions. And this will mark the first time that we're flying a booster for its 6th mission. The bottom 2/3 of the vehicle that you see there is the first stage. And if you look closely, you can actually see a little, well, I guess the white clouds there are covering it up at the moment, but there are soot markings still on the vehicle from its previous 5 flights. The first stage has 9 Merlin engines that do the bulk of the work to get Falcon 9 off the ground and up into the thinner parts of the Earth's atmosphere before separating from second stage and making its way back down to Earth for landing. Today we will be attempting to recover this first stage for the 6th time. This time we'll be doing that on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, which is currently stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. You can see it there on your screen, about 350 nautical miles northeast of our Cape Canaveral, Florida launch site. On top of the first stage is the inner stage, which is the black segment of the rocket that you see there. The reason it's black as opposed to the rest of the vehicle is because it is unpainted TPS, or thermal protective system. And that TPS is what protects the composite material in which the inner stage is made out of. The inner stage is what connects the first stage to the second stage and protects the second stage's single Merlin vacuum, or MVAC, engine during launch. That MVAC engine ignites after the first stage separates and will propel the second stage along with Planet's 3 SkySats and our 58 Starlink satellites into an elliptical orbit above Earth's surface. Like I mentioned earlier, Planet's SkySats will deploy sequentially at about 12 minutes and 30 seconds after liftoff, and our Starlink satellites will deploy around T plus 46 minutes. Falcon 9 has been loading propellant since T minus 35 minutes. As a reminder, Falcon 9 uses a rocket-grade kerosene, which we call RP1, for our fuel, and super-chilled liquid oxygen, or LOX, as our oxidizer. Currently, RP1 and LOX are nearly fully loaded on both stages, and liquid oxygen will continue to be topped off right until the last minutes of the countdown. The stack of 58 Starlink satellites and 3 SkySats are safely enclosed right inside of that structure, our payload fairing, which is a 17-foot diameter structure at the top of the rocket. The fairing protects the satellites from aerothermal heating, aerodynamic loads, and contamination during the ascent phase. Once we reach the vacuum of space, we'll jettison those fairing halves, while the second stage will continue on to orbit. The fairing halves that we're using today previously flew on the STARLINK mission that we launched earlier this year in January. We will be attempting to recover these fairing halves today using our recovery ships, which you can see there on your screen, Ms. Chief and Ms. Tree. At approximately T plus 40 minutes, or roughly 2 minutes before landing, the recovery team will perform a poll to confirm if we're good to make a safe catch attempt. As you might imagine, weather plays a big factor into that go, no-go decision for the catch attempt, as it can impact not only the sea states for the boats, but also the fairing's altitude, position, and speed, which impact all how the fairing will fall back to Earth. As of right now, weather is looking good. We have got blue skies and just a couple of clouds there at Cape Canaveral, Florida. The vehicle, the satellites, and the weather and the range are all looking good for an on-time liftoff of 10:31 a.m. Eastern at just under 4 minutes from now.
So yeah, just
For those of you that might be newer to the Starlink program, little info for you. Our mission is to bring high-speed, low-latency internet to people all over Earth. Every one of these Starlink missions gets us closer to achieving that goal. Some of the most exciting opportunities for Starlink are locations where traditional fiber or cable is simply not practical, such as rural and remote communities. It's also exciting for places where fiber and cable are impossible, such as aircrafts and cruise ships. This is a big endeavor, and we have a lot of work ahead of us, but today's launch gets us one step closer to these goals. If you're interested in getting future news about our Starlink service, head on over to starlink.com and sign up for updates. And if you're interested in helping roll out Starlink to the world, our Redmond, Washington location, which is just outside of Seattle, is looking for talented software engineers. The software engineers here at SpaceX get to drive work across exciting projects such as our rockets, spacecrafts, and satellites and ground systems. Send your resume to softwarejobs@spacex.com if you're interested in joining our team. So right now we are just under 2.5 minutes from liftoff, and Falcon 9 is moving into the final stages of the countdown. Right now, the first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Fuel is completely loaded. LOX on the first stage is also completely loaded, and we are continuing to top off the liquid oxygen loading on the second stage. Super chilled liquid oxygen, which, like I mentioned, we call LOX, is our propellant oxidizer, and that's what is creating those white clouds around the vehicle that you see there. This happens when liquid oxygen is exposed to ambient air, which is warmer, and causes the liquid oxygen to evaporate into gas and form those white clouds. The first stage should finish prop loading here, and actually I just noticed that all fuel tanks and liquid oxygen tanks are now fully loaded, so complete there on the prop load. Here in just 30 seconds or so, we'll hear a call out that Falcon 9 is in startup. It means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. At T-minus 2 seconds, the Merlin engines will light, and liftoff will be commanded to the vehicle at T-minus 0. So right now, as we approach the T-minus 1 minute mark, the Starlink payload and the Planet payloads continue to look healthy. Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. Weather continues to look good, and the range is green for launch.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
So basically Falcon 9 is in startup, means the control is now taken over by the flight computer of the Falcon 9 rocket.
Stage 2 press for flight.
LDs go for launch.
So Falcon 9 still able to hold the launch if it found anything is not working well or so.
T-minus 30 seconds.
We are just 30 seconds away from the launch.
Okay, so we're in the final phases of the countdown. Let's
Stage
watch
1
as
startup
Falcon 9
pressure.
takes
T-minus 15
58
seconds.
Starlink satellites and
Falcon
3
9
Planet
is
SkySats
flight.
into orbit.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff. And
And
Falcon
we have
9
liftoff.
goes Starlink.
The successful liftoff of Falcon 9
Power
from
telemetry
Space
nominal.
Launch Complex 40 for this 11th Starlink mission. The 3 planet SkySats and our 58 Starlink satellites are on their way to space. In about 10 seconds, we will be approaching max Q. Merlin engines are now
Vehicle
throttling
supersonic.
down as they anticipate the moment of greatest aerodynamic pressure.
Max Q.
All right, we just went through max Q, and the vehicle is now supersonic, and Merlin engines have throttled back up. So coming up in about a minute, we'll have 3 events happening back to back. First will be main engine cutoff, or MECO. This is where all 9 Merlin engines will shut off to slow the vehicle down in preparation for the second event, stage separation. This is where the first stage separates from the second stage, with stage 1 starting to make its way back to Earth for landing, while second stage will kick off the third event in this sequence, SES-1, or Second Engine Start 1. This is where that Merlin vacuum engine will ignite and begin to propel the second stage along with our payloads into orbit. Main engine cutoff coming up in about 20 seconds. Everything continuing to look nominal for stage 1.
So we are coming up for the MECO, main engine cutoff, stage separation and second stage ignition.
Stage separation confirmed.
And we have stage separation.
And impact ignition.
And we have
All right,
confirmation
so
of
there we
second
saw
stage
those
ignition.
3 events all happen in quick succession. Stage 1 is now making its way back to Earth. There on the left-hand side of your screen, we can see the grid fins slowly deploying. And on the right-hand side of your screen, the Merlin vacuum engine beginning to develop that healthy orange glow as it continues its journey on to orbit.
Fairing separation confirmed.
We're just a few seconds away from fairing deployment. There we go, visual confirmation of fairing deployment. Once again, as a reminder, we flew those fairings on a previous Starlink mission in January earlier this year. So with that, we have successfully reused this fairing pair. Like I said earlier, we will be attempting to catch those fairing halves with our recovery ships, Ms. Tree and Ms. Chief.
Bermuda acquisition of
Everything
signal.
continuing nominally.
So we have good performance on the second stage. First stage is now on it, so it will end.
So performance
While the
looks
second stage is continuing to do its job, the first stage is making its way back home to Earth. In the next few minutes, it will be executing 2 burns. The first is the entry burn, where 3 of the Merlin engines at the bottom of the first stage will light up and begin to slow the stage down as it re-enters the upper part of the Earth's atmosphere. The second burn is known as the landing burn. This is a single engine burn that will bring the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to make a soft landing on the drone ship. The 58 Starlink satellites that are being carried along on the right-hand side of your screen there by the second stage will be joining our constellation of over 600 Starlink satellites that are already on orbit, which once again are designed to provide high-speed, low-latency internet to people on Earth. This is particularly important for places where good internet is hard to access, as well as places where wired or grounded internet is impossible, such as ships and airplanes. We're 1 minute away from the beginning of that entry burn. On the left-hand side of your screen, we can see stage 1 coasting using nothing but those grid fins. We see them articulate here and there as they continue to steer. And we also utilize nitrogen gas for occasional little bursts of that nitrogen gas, and we use that for attitude control, which sometimes you can catch a glimpse of as little white puffs.
We are shortly coming up for the entry burn.
Second stage continuing nominally.
Generally slow down the first stage so that it will
Now
enter
at
into the
1.5
atmosphere in single
Gs for
phase.
acceleration. And 10 seconds away now from the beginning of that entry burn. Again, this is the first of 2 burns intended to slow the vehicle's velocity
Stage
down
1
as
FPS
it
is
re-enters
saved.
the Earth's atmosphere.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there we can see that the entry burn has begun and will last for about 20 seconds.
Stage 2 continues on nominal trajectory.
Again, this burn utilizes 3 engines at the base of the rocket. And
Stage
there
1
we
entry
can
burn
see the
shutdown.
entry burn has concluded. Second stage trajectory is still looking nominal. And in less than a minute, we will see the first stage on the left-hand side of the screen perform its landing burn. Looking back at our second stage, everything continues to look good. Once again, we are carrying 58 Starlink satellites prepared to join the over 600 Starlink satellites that are already on
Stage 1
orbit,
transonic.
as well as 3 rideshare satellites for our customer planets. Those 3 SkySats will join the 18 SkySats that are already also on orbit. We're about 15 seconds away from landing burn.
Terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing burn.
And landing burn has begun. You should see the
Stage
plume
2
from the
FPS is
rocket appear on the screen here
Stage
in
1
a
landing
second.
leg deploy.
And Falcon had
Touchdown
landed.
and shut off.
Stage
Successful
1 landing
landing
confirmed.
of the first stage booster. Once again, this is the 6th time that we have utilized this booster on a mission, also marking its 6th landing. This is the Of Course I Still Love You drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. So turning our attention back to second stage, we've had
Nominal
confirmation
orbit insertion.
of second engine cutoff, or SECO-1. And we also have confirmation of a good
Useful
orbit.
acquisition of SECO.
So now that stage 2 is going to coast in this orbit for another 3.5 minutes, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back at T plus 12 minutes for the deployment of Planet's 3 SkySats.
So basically now they are moving the second stage on proper orientation so that they can deploy the SkySats in such a way so that it cannot collide with any Starlink satellite and another SkySat. So they continuously move their second stage, deploy the first SkySat, then move again, deploy the second SkySat and move again, and third second. Then they have a long post period, 45, which is 45 minutes into the flight, where they deploy their, I don't know, they know. So, and they deploy the Starlink payload straight into the orbit. There will be no second stage plan for this mission. So let's see. So, plan trajectory somewhere located around 320 km by 210 km or so. I'm not sure about the orbit of this mission, but this is the generally accepted numbers I see in various sources. You can see the Starlink strike right now, and vehicle is reorienting itself. My live webcast will end with the SkySat separation.
Welcome back to the webcast for this 11th Starlink mission. We had an on-time liftoff from Cape Canaveral, and everything is looking nominal for our second stage. As we can see on our screen there, the stack of payloads. We are carrying 58 Starlink satellites as well as 3 rideshare satellites for our customer planet. We're about 10 seconds away from the first of 3 deployments for those Planet SkySats.
SkySat 21 deploy confirmed.
And
Okay, deployment confirmed for that first SkySat. The first of 3 this morning. And there on your screen, at the end of the stack, slowly making its way away from the second stage, we can see that first SkySat moving along.
SkySat 20 deploy confirmed.
And confirmation that the second SkySat has deployed. We'll see that here momentarily. There it is at the end of the stack again. And awaiting the third and final deployment for this rideshare customer.
And SkySat 19 deploy confirmed.
no
And
confirmation
deployment
of the
confirmed for that third and final SkySat for our customer planet. These 3 SkySats will be joining 18 already on orbit, which will complete the fleet of 21 and make it the largest high-resolution fleet of satellites in orbit to date. Like I mentioned before, they'll be capable of imaging a single location up to 12 times a day. Right now, Stage 2 is going to continue to coast in this orbit for a few more minutes. During this time, it will start to spin along its central axis, which will give those Starlink satellites the momentum they require to space themselves out over time after deployment at T plus 46 minutes. So right now, we're going to take a break, but stay tuned because we'll be back at T plus 45 minutes in preparation for the deployment of those 58 Starlink satellites. Stay with us.
So basically we have a good liftoff. First stage had landed back in drone shape for the sixth time. So which is very cool thing. the second stage engine cut off on the right way, and the nominal orbit insertion occurred. 3 SkySat had been deployed, and now we are waiting for the Starlink payload deploy at T plus 45 minutes into the flight. So we have a half an hour to go for the deployment of this SkySat. So yeah. I will come back soon. चालू Hi guys, welcome back. So what we are talking about, I don't have any topic to talk about right now.
You can say about Vega.
Yeah, we have a Vega launch on 1st September, which is return to flight for the Vega after the last year failure. And this particular mission is going to be a very exciting one because it's carrying a 47 payload into its firing, so it's going to be very cool. And the cool thing is that one of the customer is Planet itself. Planet have two fleet of satellites. First is SkySat, which can able to capture the sub-meter resolution imagery, and the second one is the Dove satellite step, which can able to image up to 3-meter resolution, and if when it get lower and lower, it will able to capture the 1-meter resolution images even with that. So this is a very cool thing about the SkySat and Dove satellite. So Planet Lab launch continuously their Dove and SkySat satellite so that they can able to capture each and every part of the Earth on a daily basis. So it's cool. And the last year Vega was failed because of the second stage dome structure failed and destroyed the whole launch vehicle. And yeah, they find out the root cause and they find out the solution of it, and now they are soon come back to the launch. Yeah, Starlink plan to launch on somewhere around the October or September after the last flight failure because some software error and clock's setup was wrong. So and also they are find some 2 to 3 issue on a software side. So they will continuously analyze the data come from the various channels, and they find out some solution of it, and they will launch another uncrewed mission with this station and try to dock with this station, and if they are successful, then the next year they will carry out their CFT mission or crew flight test week mission. So let's see what they will do. So yeah, they will come back. Talking about the Indian Gaganyaan program. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced last year that the India will develop a manned vehicle which called Gaganyaan, and which which launched 3 Indian astronauts. Right now they are planned for the two only, 2 Indian astronauts into the orbit, and then they will bring back into the somewhere around the near Indian coast, so that they can easily able to recover that particular capsule and crew. So the first unmanned flight, which is scheduled for this year and will now schedule for early next year, just because the COVID pandemic. So yeah, so let's see whether they can able to match the target or not.
After the Gaganyaan success, ISRO plan to make their overall space station and interplanetary missions also.
So yeah, ISRO targeting the next interplanetary mission is Chandrayaan-3, which consisting of the lander and rover, and try to land one more time, because the Chandrayaan-2 lander failed to land, but they will find out some solution of, and they will try to land again somewhere around next year or so. And the second mission, which is scheduled, is 2024, which is the Mangalyaan-2 Mars Orbital Mission 2, which carry multiple payload with it, which include the high resolution camera, some and full science stuff is there on the Mangalyaan-2, and its orbit also lower than the current Mangalyaan, which is somewhere around 400 kilometers by 4,000 kilometers.
And Venus orbital mission.
And yeah, we are also planning in South India. ISRO is also planning mission to the Venus. So Venus is the, I think, the planet of hell, because it's ambient atmosphere. So yeah, they are still targeting to launch it, and I am personally waiting for it, because it carrying a radar, so we can able to map the whole planet surface, and then we compare it with the previously NASA's missions radar images, and we compare it with together and see if there is any geological change or are there or not. So yeah, we are very excited for. I am personally very excited for this mission to be happen as soon as possible. The another mission is on ISRO working is the Aditya L1, which is scheduled to launch. Actually scheduled to launch this year, but now as COVID pandemic, now targeting not earlier than the mid of the next year. Aditya L1 is, as its name suggests, is going to be a Lagrange point 1, from where it observes the sun, the coronagraph, and multiple payload, which include the X-ray imager and magnetometer and various stuff with it. So it's going to be a full science mission.
I share about the Hayabusa 2. Hayabusa 2 he started journey to back to the Earth, and they are targeting to land in Australia around December 2020.
So yeah, Hayabusa 2 is very, I would say, it's a very fascinating mission, because it's go to the asteroid, orbited the asteroid, collected the sample, then they will deploy some destroyer, and it will create one small crater, so that and then they scoop some sample from that particular crater. So Hayabusa to have some ancient material inside its heat shield. So they leave the Hayabusa to leave the asteroid Ryukyu last year, and now they are targeting December 2020, or this year December to land on Australia. So yeah, Hayabusa 2 is coming back. Talking about the asteroid, then the OSIRIS-REx is there at asteroid Bennu and orbiting the Bennu and try to cover the high resolution imagery of the whole planet, whole asteroid, and they will selected the landing site from where they will collect the samples. So it's very similar to the Hayabusa 2. Satellite will deploy the arm and capture some material of the asteroid and come back to the Earth with those samples. So they already performed two rehearsal where they go to the 1 meter close to the surface and then come back. So they completed two rehearsal and they are now targeting somewhere around late October or November to scoop the sun sample. So wait for the some cool stuff which is coming up.
You can say about James Webb Space Telescope.
Yes, James Webb Telescope, much delayed mission. So I heard that they are now targeting 2022 for the launch of the James Webb Telescope. So James Webb Telescope is the successor of the Hubble Space Telescope. So it's merely 10 times wider than the Hubble. So it can able to capture the images from the very far. So it's like we can able to see images coming from the Big Bang time. So let's see they can able to launch it. But the original launch currently still targeting 2021. But some sources confirm that due to this COVID pandemic, they are now targeting not earlier than 2022 or further. If they can able to launch in 2021, I am the most happiest person because I love to see some great images from that particular telescope. The telescope itself is very complex to deploy once in orbit. So let's see what happens with that with the James Webb telescope. So the launch vehicle is the Ariane 5, and yeah, it need to deploy its complex sun shield, the mirror and the secondary mirror. So it's complex but very behind mission. So I'm losing with the now topics. Let me check I'll check this one. Yeah. Let's Please have subscribe me. Maru. So live chat is off.
So talking about Chang'e 5 is the robotic Chinese lunar exploration mission conducting sample determination to the land on the moon and back to the Earth. It will be planned to launch in early 2020 by the Long March 5 launch vehicle. Its weight about 8,200 kilograms, and they are launching from the Wengchang site.
Talking about the Chang'e 4 mission, which launched and landed on the far side of the moon. So this is the first mission which landed on far side of the moon, and this this is the, I think, the first time the human landed on the front side of the moon, which we see. All the robotic mission landed on to the front side of the moon, but the Changla 4 is the first mission which landed far side of the moon, and we first time we see the surface of the far side of the moon from the Changla 4. Now they are preparing for the Changla 5, which is targeting to lift off somewhere around the end of this year with their heavy lift launch vehicle Changla 5. Long March 5 or Changzheng 5, and the Changla 5 will reach to the moon orbit, separate a lander and land on the surface. With a robotic hand, they can take some samples. They also dig some few meters and take some samples and put it inside the one capsule, and then lander will launch again and dock with the orbiter, and orbiter then will take the will continue their journey to the earth, and capsule will separate from near the atmosphere of the earth and land back to the somewhere around near Mongolia or so. It's near Mongolia, yeah.
Talking about Chandrayaan 3 is the third lunar exploration mission by the Indian Space Research Organization (ISRO). It have a lunar lander and rover. They are planned to launch in 2021 by the GSLV Mark 3 rocket by the Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota. After the Chandrayaan 2 failure, ISRO planned the Chandrayaan 3. But yeah, they have Japanese
ISRO is also planning a lunar mission with a collaboration with the Japan mission called Chandrayaan 4 also, where the lander will be provided by the ISRO, while the rover will be provided by the Japan, and this joint mission. We do not know anything right now because the official contract is not signed yet. So let's see what happens with it. So we are at T plus 32 minutes and 57 seconds, 33 minutes. Still few minutes to go. I'm running out of topics right now to talk, so let's wait for this exciting. Let's see Starlink website. Sorry for this. If you joined again, then we have a spectacular launch. The first stage septation and landed back to the drone ship. The fairing septation is also confirmed. We do not know whether they can able to catch the fairing or not yet. And yeah, 3 SkySat is deployed, and now we are waiting for the Starlink payload deploy at T plus 45 minutes into the flight or so. So we are waiting for that particular event. The next launch is, I think, the Delta 4 Heavy. So I will try to cover that, but I am not 100% sure that I will be able to cover that or not. Let's let off right now. I do not have any thinking. Let's talk about the Starship. And SN5 successfully completed 150-meter hop west and landed on landing pad. So launch said that they are target to launch 20-kilometer hop somewhere end of this year also. I don't know which serial number will do this particular flight. So let's wait for the official detail. What happened next? So we are still around 7 minutes away from the deployment. I do not have any topic to speak. You can see the second stage nozzle. Starlink payloads. We are 1 minute away from the deployment.
Eastern Time from Cape Canaveral, Florida, for a 6th mission for this particular first stage. We landed it successfully on our drone ship. And there, as you can see on your screen, we successfully caught one of the fairing halves. That is a recovery vessel, Ms. Tree, caught that out of the air. The second fairing half made a soft water landing, so Ms. Chief is en route to scoop it out of the ocean. And before we went for a break, we saw the successful deployment of the 3 SkySat satellites for our customer Planet, which were ride-sharing along with Starlink. These 3 SkySats will be joining the 18 already on orbit and will complete Planet's fleet of 21 satellites and make it the largest high-resolution fleet of satellites in orbit to date. So here in just a couple of seconds, we will be deploying our 58 Starlink satellites, which will be joining the nearly 600 that are on orbit. Now, there is a chance, and it looks like I was just going to say that
Starlink tension rod separation confirmed.
we have an expected loss of signal over our ground station. There we go. We can see the visual confirmation of Starlink deployment. Like I said before, those 58 Starlinks will be joining 600 that are already on orbit, and shortly they will be deploying their solar arrays. Over the next few days and weeks, they will distance themselves out using the momentum created by the second stage.
For complete.
Like I said, we spun it along its central axis to provide the momentum required for those satellites to space out, as you can see there. So they'll be using their onboard ion thrusters to make their way to their operational orbit of 550 kilometers above Earth, and we'll begin to start beaming down high-speed internet to us Earthlings. And with that wonderful view of those Starlink satellites floating out into space, we will now bring our webcast to a close this morning. We'd like to thank our customer Planet for their continued support riding on board Falcon 9, as well as the FAA and the 45th Space Wing for supporting today's mission. If you're interested in getting future updates about Starlink launches, as well as general updates about future service availability, head over to starlink.com, sign up for updates, and we will see you next launch. Until then, have a good one.
And with this, I will also close my launch webcast. We'll see you soon on Delta 4 heavy launch, which is the next one. So we'll see you soon.